of a strategic partnership between Africa and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, even making its institutional and put together a strategic partnership between Africa Commission. This partnership will not only strengthen cooperations between South-South, but in the mutual interest of our states, it would also help us to capitalize on the partnership with our friends and brothers in the North. Similarly to the rest of the world, African countries need more than ever peace and security to be able to have better living conditions. Peace and development will also result through resolving our political and territorial problems which have to do with the sovereignty of states and the dignity of nations. It was these concerns that pushed us me and my African partners to go to a meeting with President Zelensky and Putin within the framework of the Mission for African Peace last June in Kiev and St. Petersburg, respectively. We therefore stand ready to support any and all other initiatives aimed at ending this war, which negatively impacts our goals to increase the well-being of our people. Let me also reiterate, once again, with the goal of safeguarding peace and stability, and on behalf of the African Union, that there is a high need to come up with a just and fair solution to the issue of Palestine, a solution which would enshrine the right of the Palestinian people to have a sovereign state living in perfect harmony and security with the State of Israel. I would like to recall here also very solemnly, as chairperson of the African Union and the Union of the Comoros, the Comorian nature of the Ile of Mayotte. And I recall that in order to move forward on this, we opted for a dialogue with the French party, so as to find a solution to this disagreeable dispute and to do so in the interest of both countries. I would like to underscore my determination of my government to honor the institutions and the democratic life in the Comoros by organizing free, transparent, and democratic upcoming presidential elections and governors' elections in 2024. I would like to also recall that the Union of the Comoros managed to put an end to this cycle of political instability, which used to be the characteristic of our political life since independence in 1975. And this was done thanks to the policy of national reconciliation that I have been conducting since 2000. This policy of reconciliation, supported by the African Union, the United Nations, and all of our partners, have brought stability to the country, and it is our duty to build on it and to sustain it. Since 2002, in fact, the date of the 26th May have become a symbolic date of the transfer of power in the Comoros, because it is on this date we have the transfer of power as resulting from free and transparent presidential elections. It is with this concern in mind, the concern to preserve peace and stability and democracy in the Union of the Comoros, that I am asking once again for your support and your accompaniment so that the upcoming presidential elections and the election of governors planned for the month of December and January next should be conducted under good conditions. To conclude, let me say that I am confident that on the 26th of May 2024, we will once again celebrate the political maturity of the people of the Comoros, and that the inauguration ceremony of the next president of the Union of the Comoros will symbolize the deep rootedness and the strength of our democracy. I thank you.
Au nom de l'Assemblée générale, je tiens
On behalf of the General Assembly, I would like the President of the Union of the Comoros for the statement just made, and I request protocol to escort His Excellency.
l'Assemblée va entendre l'allocution de son
Assembly will hear and address by His Excellency Luis Rodolfo Abinader Corona, President of the Dominican Republic. I request protocol to escort His Excellency.
Au nom de l'Assemblée
On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome His Excellency Luis Rodolfo Abinader Corona, President of the Dominican Republic, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
Excelentísimo señor Denis Francis.
Your Excellency, Mr. Denis Francis, President of the 78th Regular Session of the General Assembly of the United Nations, Your Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary-General of the United Nations, heads of state and government, honourable heads of delegation, ladies and gentlemen. As we enter the second decade of the 21st century, humanity faces inherited challenges and new obstacles that require action. We must see these calamities as opportunities that compel us to work together to overcome them. The Dominican Republic has the firm commitment that we can build a model of inclusive human development that is just and sustainable. However, it is legitimate for us to wonder whether we are really on track to achieve such an outcome. The various crises caused by climate change have had devastating impacts on our planet and societies, such as droughts, rising sea levels, loss of biodiversity, extreme weather events, amongst others. These impacts have generated an environmental liability that significantly threatens all of the progress achieved in recent decades. As a developing economy with a negative carbon footprint, we are making our contribution to mitigating climate change by incentivizing the use of renewable energies. But we know that this is only one step on the long road to sustainability, because we still have significant dependence on fossil fuels. Oil is still important to us. I take this opportunity to draw attention to the practice of supply control by exporting countries in order to keep crude oil prices high to the detriment of importing countries. In this Assembly, representative of all, we should discuss and approve a financial mechanism to guarantee the stability of crude oil prices for low and middle income importing countries such as mine. Important steps have been taken to address the climate emergency, such as the recent adoption of the Convention for the Conservation and Sustainable Use of Marine Biological Diversity in Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction, known as BBNJ, a convention which I will be signing this afternoon. But many more and far more significant steps remain outstanding, such as adopting a multidimensional vulnerability index, MVI, applicable to all developing countries, or the implementation of the Loss and Damage Fund to provide financial assistance to the nations most vulnerable to the effects of climate change. I would also like to highlight the International Summit to be held in Antigua and Barbuda in May 2024 on small island developing states, in which our country will be present as a member of the Preparatory Committee. It is also urgent to create a concessional financing mechanism for middle-income countries so they can meet the challenges of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs 2015-2030. The lack of access to adequate resources was one of the reasons why many countries failed to meet the Millennium Development Goals. As the Secretary-General has stated, the international financial system is broken. The Dominican Republic strongly believes in an in-depth reform of the international financial architecture that could benefit all countries in an equitable way. Another of the harmful effects of climate change affects in particular our Caribbean region. Here I am referring to the massive proliferation of sargassum. This seaweed devours Caribbean coasts, including the coasts of the United States and Mexico, and has serious economic, social and environmental impacts, especially for tourism, which represents up to 75% of some Caribbean nations' economies. The Dominican Republic has created a multi-sectoral round table to deal with this problem, and we hope that developed countries will contribute to the solution. Mr. President, one of the pillars of our commitment to achieve a fairer social contract and a more effective state has been, and will always be, the fight against corruption. Dominican citizens have taken this on as a response to one of their main demands. The various international indicators on the perception of corruption confirm the progress that my government has made in this regard. On a different matter, I would like to take this opportunity before this Assembly to reiterate the Dominican Republic's candidacy for the UN Human Rights Council for the period 2024-26. Elections will be held next month. This candidacy represents our firm commitment to the defence of human rights. Distinguished colleagues, looking at the island of Hispaniola from space, you could do this on your mobile phone, for example, using Google Earth. You can see a palpable and heart-wrenching difference. One half of the island is green and flourishing. That is the Dominican Republic, which has prioritized the conservation and sustainable management of its natural resources. The other half is devoid of that rich forest cover. This is a reflection of Haiti's dramatic deforested landscape. This natural frontier is not only a geography lesson, it is a potent reminder of what awaits the world if we continue to ignore nature's alarms. Ladies and gentlemen, Haiti today suffers not only from an environmental tragedy, but also from political and social instability that may become a threat to the entire region. I am not happy to have to recall the call I made 2 years ago to this General Assembly when I said, since this government took office, we have been warning of the possibility that the Haitian situation could spill over its borders into our country, becoming a factor of insecurity for the entire region. That is why this community of nations, once and for all, has to take up the Haitian issue at the highest level of priority with permanent monitoring. Today, 2 years later, the harsh reality of that warning is coming home to roost. A small group of Haitian private individuals have resumed the construction of an illegal diversion canal in Haitian territory to extract water from the Dajabon River in violation of border treaties between our two countries. The international community should realize that the Dajabon River originates in Loma de Cabrera and most of its 55 kilometers run through our territory before emptying out into Bay of Montanillo
escalation,
in Monte
a
Cristo.
scenario
Only 2
that
kilometers
none of us
run through Haitian
wants to
territory.
experience.
It is in that
The
small
Hungarians are
stretch on
hit
the
by
Haitian
the
side
war
that the
in
canal is
Ukraine
being dug.
in 3
The information
dimensions.
available to us indicates that
As a
this is
direct
a maneuver
neighbor,
to
we
control
feel
the water by a small
threatened.
economic
Ethnic
political elite
Hungarians,
in order to
citizens of
profit from its
Ukraine,
sale to
are
small producers in
fighting
the
and
area.
are dying on the battlefield.
The idea behind this project
The war in Ukraine
has never
directly
been officially
threatens the
communicated to the
security
Dominican
architecture
government,
of Europe.
nor has documentation
Since
been
the war is
provided
being
on its
fought
scope,
close to the eastern border of
environmental
NATO,
impact,
the emergence
or
of a
the
new
identity
Cold War
of its
is a
final
disturbing
beneficiaries.
reality. The
Despite
war in
the highly
Ukraine
limited
has
information
serious
available,
impact
our
not only
analysis
on the
shows
European
that the
continent,
project
but in the whole
puts
world.
at risk
Inflation
access
and
to
rising
water
energy
for hundreds
prices
of
remind
Dominican and
us
Haitian farming
that in this
families
interconnected
downstream
world,
of the
local
canal's
conflicts
construction site.
easily become regional, then global.
Moreover, the
We
project
all need
puts
to work
at
together
risk
to promote
of
peace and
flooding
security
an
in
industrial
Ukraine.
park, which is
Hungary
300 meters
supports
downstream
and
from
is open to
the
take
canal,
part in any
as well
peace
as
initiative that
19,000
creates a
Haitian
feasible
workers
environment
in
for a
Mendez,
lasting ceasefire
as well
and creates a
as
roadmap
inhabitants
towards a
in the border towns of
sustainable
Dajabon
and
and
just
Juana Mendez.
peace.
Additionally,
We need
it would have
organizations,
harmful ecological
countries,
impacts
and
affecting
personalities
Saladillo Lagoon,
who can invite
one
the
of
warring
main
parties to
wetlands
peace
in the Dominican
negotiation.
Republic.
Organizations.
Since April 2021,
We acknowledge
our
the United
government has
Nations
repeatedly
and this Security
sought
Council of the UN as essential
for
actors
the
in this
Haitian
process.
authorities to stop
Being
the
the four
unilateral
of
and
our
illegal
both
construction of this
parties
project.
concerned
The
are
Haitian
around the
government
table,
itself
there is a room and a
has
chance
indicated
for
that it is
talks
not a
and
government-run
actions.
project,
We
but
need
it has not been
countries.
able to stop it because
We need
of
strong
institutional
nations, for
weakness
example, the
and
United
public
States,
order and
China,
security
or
crisis
Turkey,
ongoing in that
that are
country.
capable or ready
The
to set
situation
the
has
table
already
for a
led
possible
to
solution, are capable
fragile
or ready to
animosity
talk
on
with
both
both
sides of the
sides
border.
and have the potential to
Faced with
influence
this
the
illegal international
continuation
act
further.
committed by private individuals in a part
Personalities
of the
we
river
also
that is
need.
on Haitian
Our
territory,
history gives
the
us
Dominican
so many
government has been
examples
forced to
that
take
a small
forceful
group of people
measures,
or even a
such
single
as
person
closing
can
the border
can
with
have an
Haiti
effect
in
or
order to
turn the flow
guarantee
of history.
security and our
I am
national
convinced
interest,
that
as
Pope
well as to
Francis is
protect our
someone who
rivers,
can facilitate
environment,
peace in
and
Ukraine.
agricultural production.
And let us not
We do
underestimate the
not
power
have,
of
nor do we
women.
seek or desire
Women
a
leaders who
confrontation
join their
with the
forces
Haitian
to
people.
contribute to
But we
peacemaking
face
can have a substantial
uncontrollable
contribution in this
actors
process.
who
This brings me
foment
to congratulating
insecurity in
Nataša
Haiti for their
Pirc-Muscat,
particular
President of
interests, and who are now
Slovenia, for
conspiring
their Security
against
Council
their own
membership.
government's
Dear
stability
Natasha,
and the
your
security
role
of
is
water
vital
resources.
here.
Mr.
The
President,
personal presence of Mr. Volodymyr
there can be
Zelensky,
no
President
doubt
of Ukraine,
that the
at
problem
this
of Haiti
distinguished
is no
gathering
longer
before
just
us is also an
in
indication
Haiti.
that the
It is
moment
in
has
the
come to
hands
be
of the
serious
international
about
community.
peace. I take
That
this
is why
moment
we
to
strongly
reiterate that
support
Hungary welcomes
the
the Ukrainian
responsible
peace
position
initiative
of the
and is
President
open
of the
to join
United
the
States, Mr. Joe
process.
Biden,
I
expressed
also count on
yesterday
President
from
Zelensky
this
to take
rostrum,
action and facilitate
which we will
the
repeat now.
restoration of rights
The
of ethnic
Security
Hungarians
Council
in Ukraine,
must
as he
authorize
personally promised me
urgently
during our last
the
meeting in
UN-backed
Kiev
security mission
and also yesterday
as a matter
here in New
of
York.
urgency.
With regard to
The
the
Security
future of
Council has
Ukraine,
already passed
Hungary is
3
interested
important
in a
resolutions
stable,
creating a
democratic
sanctions
and
regime,
prosperous Ukraine.
an effort to stop
In
the
this
illicit
spirit
flow
of good
arms,
neighborhoodly
and a call for the
relations,
creation of a
Hungary
multinational
will keep
force to
providing
assist the Haitian
political,
National Police
economic, and
as
humanitarian
requested
assistance to Ukraine,
by the
as we
government
did
of that
ever since
country
the war has started.
and the Secretary
The
General of
support
this
that Hungary
organization.
provided to 2.7 million Ukrainian
We
refugees
applaud
who crossed the Hungarian borders
Kenya's
is
major
a
gesture
token
of
of our
solidarity
unwavering
in leading the
support for the
multinational
cause
force,
of peace
as well
in
as the
Ukraine.
gestures of
Thank you so
Jamaica
much
and
for your
Bahamas
attention.
in providing
Thank you,
personnel.
Your
I
Excellency
take this
Ms.
opportunity
Novak,
to
for your
thank in
statement.
particular the President
And
of
now I
Kenya,
give the
William
floor to His
Ruto,
Excellency
for his
Ms.
solidarity and
Nataša
humanitarian
Pirc-Muscat,
willingness to lead
President of the Republic
via that
of
mission
Slovenia.
the search for peace and stability
Thank
for
you,
the Haitian
Mr.
people.
President.
Moreover,
Slovenia has been condemning the Russian Federation's aggression against Ukraine.
we urge all those
We
countries
have
that are
joined the
considering
General Assembly
playing
in
a role
demanding
in
that
this
the Russian
commendable
Federation
effort to
ends
act
in
with
its invasion and unconditionally
What is happening
withdraw
in Haiti
all
is a
its
breakdown
military
of law and
forces
order
from Ukraine.
caused by criminal elements
In this spirit, allow me
without
to
any
contribute
political
to this
or
debate with 3
ideological
points.
claims.
The
And
first
therefore,
addresses the
welcoming
impact of
the
Russia's
Haitian
war
authorities'
against
request for
Ukraine on
assistance by
multilateralism
sending a
and
multinational
beyond.
force would be in
The
keeping
second
with the
touches
spirit
upon the
and
importance
letter
of
the
Security
United
Council
Nations
reform
Charter
in the
and
context of
mandate
the
this
crisis of
organisation in accordance with
multilateralism.
international law.
The third
as a way
sends
of
a
guaranteeing
message to
peace.
all those who still believe that
We
they
are
can
all
commit
aware that the
crimes
process
against
of
humanity
achieving peace
with
in
impunity.
Haiti must be undertaken
President,
together with the social and political.
The impact of the Russian
agreements.
Federation's aggression
In
against
this regard,
Ukraine is
we
multifold.
commend the noble
It is
efforts
primarily
made
on the
by
people of
CARICOM
Ukraine
group
who have
of
felt
eminent
the
leaders
impact
to reach
on a daily
political
basis for
agreement
almost
that will allow the greatest
19
possible
long
legitimacy
months.
of the acceptance.
Furthermore,
for
the aggression
acceptance of a
has
multinational
impacted
force and the holding
on
of fair, free,
inter-ethnic
and
relations
transparent
and
elections.
interstate
In
relations
this
in the
regard,
region,
I wish to
but
acknowledge
also
Prime Minister
globally.
Andrew Holness of Jamaica.